The Biden crime family marches forward. Congress is demanding answers about this. And we've talked about the FD 1023 form that the FBI has been hiding and slow rolling. They really don't want Congress to get their hands on it because it might be pretty bad for the Biden administration and for the FBI, who's been allegedly covering this up now for years. But when Comer actually did look at that FD 1023, something interesting happened. He noticed that there were a couple footnotes on there, and the footnotes referenced some other documents. And so he said, hey, I've got a great idea. I'm going to ask for those other documents. I want to see what this one FD 1023 references and look at the other records. And so they actually set up a meeting for this, and the two of them got together. The FBI apparently brought over some documents, but the problem is the documents were heavily redacted, so Comer didn't get to see anything, and he wasn't happy about it. He said, today, the FBI brought two unclassified FD 1023 forms for my review, but those records were heavily redacted, so the FBI didn't do anything to provide the data, they just brought the forms. He says, Americans have lost confidence in the FBI's ability to enforce the law impartially. The FBI must provide unredacted copies of these records. Here's the full statement. Comer said this, coming out of Washington. He said, this is the House Committee on Oversight and the chairman, Comer, issuing the following statement. After reviewing two unclassified FBI-generated FD 1023 forms that are related to the June 20th FD 1023 form that memorializes a confidential human sources conversations with a foreign national who claimed to have bribed Joe Biden. So, the one form we've already talked about references two other forms. Comer saw those two forms, but it didn't go well. Here's what Comer reports. He says, today, the FBI brought two unclassified FD 1023 forms that were heavily redacted to a secure facility to be reviewed. What is the FBI hiding from Congress? Americans have lost confidence in the FBI's ability to enforce the law impartially, and the FBI's secrecy shows that they aren't interested in regaining their trust. The FBI must provide unredacted copies of these records and provide answers about what investigative actions were taken to verify these serious bribery allegations against President Biden. And so now we're really keeping tabs on three FD 1023 forms now, and James Comer explains more about his meeting and exactly what happened there.
A lot of redactions in these documents. I would estimate that 55 to 60% of the two documents were redacted. Also, the way I knew about these two documents that the FBI initially denied having was that there were footnotes in the original document that the whistleblower brought to Grassley and I. And in the footnotes, they referenced two other 1023s, one dated 2017 and one dated 2018. The two documents that they provided me today that were heavily redacted, the one thing that wasn't redacted was the date. And both dates were 2017. Whoa. So I asked him to bring me the 2018 one, and it's just a complete waste of my time. Another example of the FBI stalling, stonewalling, doing everything they can to obstruct the House Oversight Committee's credible investigation of Biden bribery.
So what do? Do you threaten to hold Wray in contempt of Congress again?
Well, Jim Jordan and I just had this conversation. We have a lot of questions for Director Wray pertaining to the Form 1023s, but we also have a lot of questions for the U.S. Attorney in Delaware that you just talked to Senator Cruz about. The last line in his statement today said this is an ongoing investigation. That's important because the reason the FBI won't turn over the 1023 forms and the reason that the Treasury Cabinet won't let me have those suspicious activity reports that detailed the Bidens involved in money laundering schemes is because they say that it's part of an ongoing investigation.
I'm going to hold you in contempt again? Is that what you do?
We're discussing our options, but obviously September. It is among them. And September is a big month. We are going to have to stick together as Republicans and cut this budget to where we hold these people accountable. That's the only way to do it in this town. We have exercised every option. We will use the contempt option. We will use the impeachment option. We will use any option. But I think the most realistic option to get rid of these people, to get new people in place in these deep state bureaucracies, is to cut their budget. So I think the House of Representatives is committed to doing that. I hope that Senator Cruz and Senator Rubio and Rand Paul and those guys can hold the line in the Senate and help us do that in the Senate.
They're not going to do anything. They already lost that budget battle, rolled over, so we'll see. Now, they're going to continue. They've got contempt. They've got some other mechanisms, but Comer is saying the FBI knows. They're basically in charge. They're running the country. They might be running the presidency based on what they have over Joe Biden. Who knows? But some people are saying this is a pretty major double standard. We've got the Biden crime family that can run wild around the world, making tens of millions of dollars allegedly from foreign nationals in exchange for policy position changes. FBI is covering the whole thing up. They won't give anything over to James Comer. And we know that Hunter Biden just took a guilty plea where he's not going to be facing any real consequences at all. In fact, the felony charge is going to be dismissed through diversion. He'll have 2 petty misdemeanor charges, not even probation, from what we can gather. And people are wondering, how does he have so much white privilege? Why are there 2 tiers of justice in this country? Why is Joe Biden enabling special privileges for Hunter, who is a straight white male born into one of the richest families in America with the most political power anybody's ever seen, getting such a sweetheart plea deal, while many other Americans who've been victimized by Joe Biden in his 1994 crime bill, including the African American community, are not getting those same privileges. And now we have 2 gentlemen in Congress who are calling this to attention. One of them is the great Wesley Hunt from Texas.
Hunter Biden will likely serve no jail time for these offenses, and yet there was no early morning SWAT raid on Hunter's home in coordination with the media either.
That's true.
The American people are sick and tired of this 2-tiered justice system, and as a black man, I'm tired of seeing this kind of discretion used to favor people like Hunter Biden because he's white and a son of a president.
I'm tired of it too.
While Hunter Biden will serve no jail time for these charges, black men across this country are in prison for years for the exact same crimes, and I'm not surprised. Because I guess this selective justice shouldn't become as a surprise to anyone in this room, because after all, Joe Biden was one of the authors of the 94 crime bill.
That's right.
One of my all-time favorites. And we could see what that has done to black men across this country.
Yes! That's exactly right. We can see what it has done. More black men in America are in prison because of Joe Biden than any other person in America. Nobody's responsible for more black men in America than Joe Biden is. And I challenge anybody to come up with somebody who's more responsible than he is. 1986 crime bill, 88 crime bill, 94 crime bill. Mandatory minimums, 3-strike laws, crack cocaine rules, first strike offenders, 5-year mandatory minimums, all the things. Joe Biden. But his son, who was, or maybe is, we don't know, was a crackhead that was the target of those laws that Joe Biden put in place. And so Mr. Hunt from Texas is exactly right. There are double standards. And I'm very curious as to what all the liberal Democrats have to say about this. Are they defending Hunter Biden's plea deal? Are they defending his white privilege? That's racist. This is Byron Donalds, who agrees with Mr. Hunt, by the way.
What he actually got charged with. I mean, look, $1.2 million in tax evasion, and you plead to 2 misdemeanors? Give me a break. That's a flat out joke. Go ask Wesley Snipes and some of the other people who had to serve jail time for tax evasion. And don't even get me started on the gun charge. Kodak Black and other people, they got sent to jail for 2 and 3 years for a similar situation. It looks like he's going to take a walk. This is the 2-tier system of justice in our country, which is disgusting. And what everybody really wants in our country is just apply the law evenly.
Fairness.
Doesn't matter if you're Hunter Biden or if your name is Hillary Clinton. Just be consistent.
Shout out to Byron Donalds and to Mr. Hunt out of Texas, Wesley, explaining we're pretty sick and tired of these 2 tiers of justice. And I mean that genuinely. Right? If they wanted to prosecute Trump for these documents, okay. And they showed up with Hillary Clinton being charged and Joe Biden being charged and Mike Pence being charged, and they started raiding everybody else's homes, like Nancy Pelosi's and Chuck Schumer. And how many documents does Mitch McConnell have? Let's be serious. And we got tabs on all of these people. What can we say here? All right, round them all up. Get those documents in order. Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's clean out the closet once and for all. But that's not happening. We have 2 tiers of justice. We have one side that is being prosecuted. Only one group of people are the disfavored defendant class. Merrick Garland knows it, and he's such a weenie, so spineless, he won't even comment on it. Just for context, Merrick Garland is the Attorney General of the United States. He works for Joe Biden. Merrick Garland employs U.S. attorneys at the DOJ, which means one of those U.S. attorneys is responsible for prosecuting Joe Biden's son, Hunty. Merrick Garland, his office, manages the prosecution of the president's son. People have questions about the DOJ's plea deal and the double standards that exist here. They're asking him about the case involving his boss's son, and he won't even answer anything about it.
Do these cases reflect a different standard of justice depending on political leanings?
So, as I said, from the moment of my appointment as Attorney General, I would leave this matter in the hands of the United States Attorney, who was appointed by the previous president and assigned to this matter by the previous administration, that he would be given full authority to decide the matter as he decided was appropriate. And that's what he's done. And if you have any further questions about that matter, you should direct him to the U.S. Attorney to explain his decision.
Wow. So he's not even going to defend his own U.S. attorney. He just says, just go talk to him about it. I don't want to be involved in your questions. I gave him full authority to make his own decisions without any pressure from his boss. So do you think that this U.S. attorney, David Weiss, by the way, who is not the only person working on this, there were other attorneys, we covered their names yesterday, and they've got a lot of other very interesting relationships, including with FBI Director Louis Freeh, who paid the Joe Biden family $100,000. Former FBI Director Louis Freeh, $100,000 to Halley's Trust. And his friend was working at the U.S. DOJ and was a co-prosecutor in this case. So a lot of nefariousness in here. Merrick Garland doesn't want to answer any real questions about it because he likes this veil of separation. He's pretending that he's arm's length away from what's happening here when we know he's not. We know it's the president's son. You can't pretend like you're not involved in this. We know he is. We know they're covering up for his own team while prosecuting the other team, and Merrick Garland and the DOJ will continue to do it because this is the new campaign. Joe Biden is not going to be running for presidency in a traditional sense. He's going to be running by prosecuting his political enemies because that's the new America that we live in, the Joe Biden America.